the catastrophe. But for the men of Bomber Command, the raids on German cities were now just a normal part of the conduct of war.
My answer to that is always the same answer. Tell me one operation of war which is moral. One operation of war. Sticking a bayonet into a man's belly, is that moral?
I would never go through it again, no. I would never do it again. But by the same token, if you can understand what I mean, I would never have missed it. I know this is difficult to understand, but I wouldn't go through that again, no.
By March of 1945, when the Americans mounted the largest raids of the war on Japan, mass destruction still took mass effort. It took tens of thousands of aircrew and hundreds of thousands of civilian workers to build and fly the aircraft that leveled Tokyo and killed almost 250,000 of its inhabitants. What the Allies were looking for was a weapon that would give them this effect without the cost in men and materials, and they wanted to find this weapon before the enemy found it first. In 1942, the U.S. government had set up the Manhattan Project. The purpose, to invent a weapon that would destroy an entire city cheaply, without fail, every time it was used. A high proportion of the world's most creative physicists worked to develop this weapon of mass destruction, and after 4 years of effort and $2 billion, they thought they had succeeded. The first settlers of New Mexico called this desert Jornada del Muerte, the Journey of Death. It was here, to this ranch house, that the scientists and soldiers came in 1945 to do the final assembly of the first atomic bomb. None of them doubted that they had created something awesome. Some of the scientists were now even having second thoughts about the morality of what they had done. But it was too late for that, of course. If the test succeeded, they had now delivered what the strategists of aerial bombing had always wanted, a reliable means of destroying the enemy's will to fight by destroying his people in their own homes. At 5:30 in the morning of July 16th, the test went off perfectly, and the world changed forever. Robert Oppenheimer, the physicist who led the team that created the bomb, came closest to recognizing what was happening to us all. The words that came to him as he watched the explosion were from the Hindu scriptures. "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." One month later, an atomic bomb was delivered to a U.S. airbase in the South Pacific.
In those days, when one was told, this is what you're going to do, you just saluted and said, yes, sir. We had worked so long and so hard to perfect the weapon, to adapt the airplane to carry that weapon, and to train ourselves to do the job. It seemed to be routine.
On the 6th of August, 1945, Colonel Paul Tibbetts' routine mission was completed, and the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima.
Immediately after that, I sent a plain code message back to the words that results were greater than expected.
"70,000 people died in Hiroshima in 5 minutes, and they are still dying today.
If I were given a similar situation in which this country was at war, risking its future, the circumstances being as they were at that time, I don't think I would hesitate 1 minute to do it over.
Hiroshima should have been the great turning point in our history, but it wasn't. Wars become unthinkable because it would mean that this neighborhood and all the other neighborhoods of the world would be destroyed by nuclear weapons. And yet war remains possible because Colonel Paul Tibbetts is only unusual for what he did, not for his attitudes. We continue to think of war as a natural and justifiable part of the way we behave. And if it is, of course, then we're doomed. But maybe it isn't. So in the following films of this series, we're going to examine war, whether it's natural or learned, how we learn it and what we use it for, and what we might do to change it.